It depends on what parameters you put around integrity, because a bank robber's got integrity. They say they're going to go and rob a bank and they go out and rob the bank.
I'm not going to stop people spending stuff on the good things because I can help them finance that, but they can keep the cash from the business if they do that.
How do you make sure that you get the results and you're with the right people? Because there's a lot of people that are banging on your door saying, spend your money with me, I will get your results. Welcome to the VSBN Podcast. I'm Jessy Warn from HR Gurus.
And I'm Phil East from Profit Improvers.
And I'm Rosslyn Pearce from the Funding Factory.
In this episode, we're going to talk about what do business owners waste money on and what should they spend it on instead.
That is a big topic, but an important one, because if you save $1, of course, it goes straight down to your bottom line. Dollar saved is better than $1 earned. But I think a lot of the time what happens when people start to get a bit successful in business, they get excited and probably spend a little bit too much on lifestyle, maybe, before they're ready. Other thing, maybe they might spend stuff on ads without thinking about their message and therefore not getting bang for their buck. That'd probably be my two for a start.
Yeah, see, I'm not going to stop people spending stuff on the good things because I can help them finance that, but they can keep the cash from the business if they do that. I don't know, a lot of times I think people go really hard onto, I'm going to spend, I'm getting some traction, I'm going to spend a heap on marketing, but like you said, they don't actually think about what the message is going to be, and they do it because someone else is doing it. If you haven't planned it out in advance, I just don't reckon you're going to get a great deal of traction with it.
No, 100%. I think knowing who you're talking to, knowing what their problem is and talking to that problem makes a big difference. And I know I talk to business owners about interrupt, engage, educate and offer as being a framework for an ad, and the interrupt is the problem that your customers got but they don't want.
I do feel like it's with the marketing, it's getting increasingly more difficult. So if we think back before the days of social media, were you in the white pages? Were you in, it was that kind of advertising, and now it's all social media and having a presence online, and it's a very different, you've got to understand the algorithm. And so you need all these marketing gurus to help you actually cut through. So if you are a tradie or, HR business or something, you also have to be really good at marketing, and obviously that's not your skill set. You're good at what you do, right? So how do you make sure that you get the results and you're with the right people? Because there's a lot of people that are banging on your door saying, spend your money with me, I will get your results. But
I think it's always going to be, my preferred thing is if I need anything in the business, I always try and find someone else who's had it and someone that's worked for them. Because, as you said, I get 3 million phone calls over the course of the week, and it's like, I don't know you from a bar of soap and you're telling me you want to do X, Y, Z. I'd much rather find someone that my affiliates have worked with, because I know, one, they might know my industry and have an insight into how it's going to work. But, someone else is actually, they've got their skin in the game, or probably not the best way of putting it, but they know what they're doing and what the results have been. Always got to know people, I reckon.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you know what a good result looks like, then if you hire someone else to give you a hand, you know whether they're getting you the result that's possible.
100%. That's actually what I meant. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So I think the other part of that whole marketing thing is thinking of it being on your balance sheet. And I think the same thing, Jessy, could be with your people as well. If you think of it as you're on your balance sheet rather than your profit and loss, and you're building an asset for your business, all of a sudden you're thinking, because if you test and measure and do all the right things with your marketing, it's something you can turn on and off. And when you need some client, well, that works. I know I've got to do this, and the perfect marketing, $1 in, $1 out, $2 out, sorry, and you put as much money into that as you can find. So
definitely. And what else are they wasting money on, do you think, in the business?
I think there's a lot of stuff that people just don't get professional help in, and I think so. The try it and have a go and all that sort of stuff is good to an extent, but getting that guidance and there's building your team and getting those people around you that can actually help you
I think it's a massive one.
better decisions or and not waste the money. As you said about finding a mentor, something that works, finding professionals that have seen things, know what works best, and getting them on your team.
I think that's a major word there is team. Because, obviously the whole having staff, having people in your business and stuff like that, my opinion, you've really got to find people who've got similar values, similar ways of dealing. Look, I've been really, really lucky. The guy's coming with me now. He's very much like me when he deals with the clients. Like, we care about the person. We never work for the lenders. We work for our clients, and he's got that. That's not something, I don't think you can train it, to be honest.
Absolutely. I think, that's that whole culture eats strategy for breakfast piece, right?
100%.
Because if you don't have your values down pat and your people are not aligned with your values, it's going to cost you more than that hire. I mean, they say it's around 40 to 50 grand, the cost of a bad hire once you replace them, and then the downtime of not having somebody in that role. And then, if you've got a larger team, the toxic effect of having the wrong person.
You only need one person to have a bad attitude, and it spreads like wildfire.
And if you've got shared values and they have the same values as you, they're going to be proactive, or they're going to be this, or they're going to value their customers, or they're going to get up and do things, and they're going to look for improvement, or whatever it is that you value. And I know, extending that to marketing, our colleague Marie, she'll talk to you about your About page, and that's an important connector on values, both for your customers and your prospective employees.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important, and there's a lot of businesses that aren't even aware of their values. And I think if you haven't defined them, they just kind of happen, and there's still, you might not be able to name what it is, or you may not have gone through a formal process, but there are still values that exist within an organisation, and it's really about how people do things.
Yes. So people have trouble. You say to them, well, what are your values? And they might reel off a couple of things, but then, so what's a good way for people to maybe think about what their values are? Is there a little process that you know of that helps people get that out?
Yeah, I think working out, I think first you need to understand your purpose, like why you're in business in the first place.
No one would hire me. Sorry.
But what's important to you? What is the vision and the mission of the business? Because from there, that's where the values come from, and it's what's important to us as an organisation. And I think that, it's how you make decisions. It's the true north. And, when we help businesses with values, it's always about, bringing the team along for the journey as well, rather than saying you must behave in this way. It's what's important to us as a group that, there's the really old-fashioned ones, which I could name off. There's respect, collaboration, kindness, punctuality, and they sit on a wall and they're our values, and people are told how to behave. But, I've seen some fantastic values that are really unique to the organisations, like We Love Mondays, and that's all about, the spirit of how people approach their work. Or I've seen companies that have a value of don't be a dick. And that suits that business, and it resonates with the team, and it becomes their guiding principles in terms of making decisions. So you don't have to micromanage people on what they're doing. As long as they are acting in line with the values, they're going to be okay. Did you follow those values when you made a big decision? Yes, you did. I can't really fault you on that. You've tried to do the right, even if it's the wrong thing. If they've acted in line with your values, then that's
right.
okay.
You've got values-based coaching for your and even values-based assessment for your staff. So instead of saying you've got a bad attitude, you can say, hey, you're not really this and this and this happened, and it's not really in line, or I wouldn't say it was in line with that value, or do you think it's in line with that value, and have a discussion around that, and it's a lot easier to quantify or qualify something and have that going. Because, I mean, after all, your values become your initial team members' values, and then when your team gets bigger, they say this is the way we do things here, and all of a sudden you've got a whole culture of your business which is still related to your own values. So
it makes behaviours much more tangible to be able to manage when you have it defined. But if you haven't defined it, then I think that they can kind of creep up, and you've got a whole lot of values that, you know, maybe don't fit where you want to be as a business. So, you know, things like integrity might be really important to you, but if you're rewarding sales performance, for example, people might do the wrong thing that don't have integrity to get the sale.
It depends on what parameters you put around integrity, because a bank robber's got integrity. They say they're going to go and rob a bank and they go out and rob the bank. That's integrity right there, doing what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. So having that extra bit around it.
Defining, you got to define it. Yeah.
I love how you brought a bank robber into there. Like, just throw it in the mix there.
I mean, there's a niche. There's a niche.
Yeah, well, I mean, even they're always early adopters, aren't they?
Yeah, Phil's
Bank
Robbers.
Everything that comes out, the criminals are early adopters.
Phil's Bank Robbers Incorporated.
They're very entrepreneurial. So
they'd have a good profit margin probably.
Yeah, not many overheads.
Yeah.
Winning.
Depends how fast their getaway car is, I guess.
Yeah, true that. Well, again, I can help with that. Or maybe not, because I can't prove their income. Well, no, I did that because that was actually something that came up recently, because I was actually speaking to people and said, well, what makes you different to the other brokers? So we'll have a look at my logo, and it says the funding factory, but underneath is where people count. Didn't actually click at the time that, it might be counting people in a factory. That wasn't what it was meant like. It is solely because my industry in a lot of respects is quite heartless, and it's very much about, you've got to fit into a very small box. Well, my opinion, it has flowed on majority of times, is we work for the people. Our job is to navigate the system on their behalf, and they count. Like I will always have the humans back over the companies. The big faceless company and bank does not need me to have their back, but the human who doesn't do this on a regular basis, they have to.
Yeah. So, and you're in a unique position to guide those people as to whether 100%. Now's a good time, what might be, have you considered this, or just help them through their decision-making process, and they might actually take a different direction or hold off or go something different or go something bigger based on your conversations.
Because it's like, obviously we see a lot of stuff that, look, for example, I'll see the work that their accountant's been doing with them, or the strategies they have, and it's like, you might want to hang off on that, because we see so many different styles of businesses and you see patterns and trends and whatever, that, as far as I'm concerned, that's our job as well, is to educate people not only through the finance process, but, where you are, what you want to achieve, and is it, what you're doing now, is that going to impact you in 12 months' time? It's got to be part of the equation. I think it's a no-brainer.
I know you want that really big RAM.
Oh, 100%.
But is it right for you just right now?
Yeah, I hate having those discussions. It's like when you get your 18-year-old first car off the rank, they're buying one that is going to drive out of the driveway straight into the petrol station, and the ongoing costs are going to be horrendous. Like,
my daughter wants a Lamborghini or a Tesla Cybertruck.
Go, girly.
She's 7.
Why not? Go hard.
I mean, we'll be coming to you, Ros, for the asset finance.
But sometimes, and I started off with, getting stuck in about the lifestyle thing, but that's part of what you get into business for, your freedom and all that sort of stuff. All I'm sort of saying is sometimes there's a wrong time. And I know I don't want to pick on tradies or whatever, but there's sort of a badge. There's a badge with tradies, isn't it? They've got to have this type of ute, they've got to have these tools, they've got to have this, they've got to go camping here, or they've got to go this there, and there's all these toys, they've got to have a jet ski, or they've got to have a motorbike, and sometimes can get caught up in that race.
Yeah,
that's
very much so. Oh, look, I always let it's a discussion I have. It's always about, right, you sure you want to be doing this right now? Because what you've said is this week, going 6 months' time, this will impact. And I said, apparently I'm a rarity in that respect, because I do actually say don't spend money, and then I walk away going, what did I do?
And I was just using tradies as a bit of an example there. They're like my bank robbers. I'm not singling them out to pick on them. I'm just using them as an example.
Well, it can even be, the business owner that wants to buy an office, or, purchase something that really is it going to be adding value, or is it something that you're ready for? I also think there's a huge piece in making sure that your team are along for that journey and understand the strategy, because if they're on board, then they're happy to, whether it's we need to focus on growth, or, battening down the hatches for the next 12 months, or this is the strategy we're going to move. Like, we need to kind of not spend money on extra things, because in 12 months' time, this is our goal. We want to move into a bigger premises, or we want to be expanding interstate, or whatever it is. But if they're along for that journey, if you've shared that vision with them, then they understand what's going on. Whereas if you're like, we're just not spending at the moment, they're going to start thinking, well, am I going to get the arse soon?
Oh, yeah.
You start to have defensive and toxic behaviours. So if you're kind of cagey, I'm not saying some business owners don't want to share the numbers and their P&Ls with their team. That's fair enough, but get them on board for the strategy, like where are we going, so that you can have that support, and if they believe in where you're going, they are more likely to be on board.
And if they believe in where you're going and they see a future for themselves in that, and if you're not communicating, they might say, well, hang on, I want to do this and this. I'm not too sure whether they're in a position to help me, because I really don't know what's going on. So it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked in a place like that many moons ago. It was always about, we've got no money, and it's like every week I'm going, well, am I going to get paid this week? And actually it was really difficult, so I was in a sales role at the time, and I was sort of going, well, I don't really know what to do here. Like I've constantly felt like I was on tenterhooks, and I don't know if they realised that was what it was actually doing. Like, you're going out there and your job is to promote the business, then in the back of your head you're going, am I getting paid this week?
I had a client once, and they wouldn't give people pay rises, and things were really tight. They wouldn't hire more team members, and everyone was at capacity and burning out. And the owner would rock up to team events in his very expensive Porsche, and it just gave the wrong message as well. Yeah. So I think that. Just be mindful if you're like, we are struggling and we've got no money.
Buy the old Holden or roll up on your pushy.
It's if you want them on board with that, I think the messaging has to be consistent, because it's not like we're working our asses off. What for? To just line our boss's pocket. It wasn't a very good culture because of how leadership was. So it's just really understanding how important that culture piece is, because what ended up happening is most of that team left, and it cost them a fortune to replace people. They had to outsource and get temps and, to keep their brand going. But it was really toxic, and, it was all down to the leader not sharing the vision and not understanding what was going on in the culture, just so detached and disconnected.
And it would have been the really good ones that left first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where, and you can correct me on the numbers, but it's somewhere like 3 to 5 is the reason they're down at number 3 to 5 is leaving for money. There's a lot more reasons, always something else.
Number one is always because of their leadership, because of the manager. That's the number one reason people leave. And so if you throw more money at people to stay, then sometimes they will, but it won't last.
No,
usually won't last more than 6 months.
Yeah, if you're not happy in the job, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, because you still go, I've got to get out of work and go there today.
And when there's a culture problem, it's a leadership problem. So, as a small business owner, that starts and ends with you. And it's amazing how many business owners don't see that, recognise that.
I think you don't know what you don't know as well. Because a lot of people, when they start a business, they do it because, I'm really good at the job, so I'm going to do this as a business. You've got to keep learning along the way because there are all these it's the little things that can completely trip you up. You might still be really good at the job, but really crap at being a manager.
Well, a lot
of
of people in management roles this is like a common mistake that we see, in so many businesses, is that people who are technically very good at their job get promoted into leadership positions, but they have no people skills and they do more damage than good because they're technically brilliant. They're the best in the organisation at what they're doing, but it doesn't mean that they're good at leading people.
And if you ask them, they might enjoy the extra money that comes with it, but they actually really not enjoying because they're not in their flow. They're not enjoying the job as much as they would have if they stopped at where they were. So who's best in what spot in your team is important.
Yeah, definitely.
Small things done consistently over time produces exponential results, and it doesn't sort of with HR, and that's the conversations and it's the feedback and it's the reinforcing the values and a few other things you can expand on. And finance, what are things with finance that people can do to make sure their finances are, so when they come to you, it's a lot easier for you to get yeses from the different.
Look, there's quite a few. There's I'll use one example. A lot of people are still, instead of setting up the structure of their company best, they set it up so that, for example, all the assets are in a family member's name or something like that, thinking, I'm saving myself. But when it comes to a financial perspective, the lenders go, hang on, they've got nothing to their name. So it actually impacts the amount of lenders that are available to them for different things, and people don't realise that. And I get why they're doing it, but in my opinion, that's where you sit down with someone who's preferably a pretty good accountant, actually get the structure of your company right. If you're running a company, there's ways to do it and to protect your assets and still run your business. The other one is, like, I've had quite a few people over the last few months have come through, and sometimes you've got like a fair cash pool behind you, and they've got, all right, we're going to go and buy whatever machinery or tools or whatever the thing may be. They've spent all their cash on that, and then of course all of a sudden the cash flow's tightened and they've got no money. So look, we can still help them. We can, if they, let's say they own a truck outright, I can get money out against that truck for them, but it's not going to be a premium. Whereas if they'd financed the actual equipment itself, one, you're going to write it all off against tax, as long as, again, your accountant knows what they're doing. They've got a nice pointy pencil. But that way your cash flow is still staying consistent. So, a lot of it with cash flow is don't get rid of your pool. You're better at financing things where you are and having a small amount over a longer period of time, because it means that, you've still got that buffer there should you need it. So that's I see that a lot, and especially now there's more and more people coming out saying, I need to pull that money out against this asset. Whereas if they'd done the other way, they'd still have their slush fund, they would still have their cash flow, and they've got the asset. So it's catch-22. I understand people want to pay cash for things because they don't like having a loan, which I fully understand. But in business, it can be quite character building down the track when you do it that way. You sometimes need to be in debt to have your business running. I've had something that's been coming up very regularly over the last few months is people have got new jobs they can take on, but they don't have the cash flow to do the job to get the income. Obviously, that's something you've really got to nut down and look at, like, is it going to be worthwhile? Trades. I've had a few that have got a really big job there, like it's going to be very much worth their while, but they've got to find the money to actually run the business while that's happening, because they've got to cover their staff, the bits and pieces. That is becoming much more popular at the minute.
Yeah, and that'll tell you whether it's a short-term lend or it's a long-term thing, or what type of finance that they
there's
need.
so many structures.
Cash and cash flow is king.
100%.
And if you can't retain your staff because you haven't got the cash, or you can't keep things going, you can't invest in the new equipment, you can't expand, it's a struggle. And that's where, as we spoke about before, getting your team, going through, doing a bit of a plan, those boring, planning and stuff like that, having a bit of a forecast of your cash flow and saying, well, hang on, we might be in a bit of a flat spot there. So maybe even though we could, it might be better for us to do that.
As many trades.
And it's having those conversations with your your accountant and your financier and all those people.
Because with the trends, like there used to be, you knew certain months of the year were going to be flat, and like you knew June was usually bonkers, and this, most of those are no longer relevant. Yeah, like June is not necessarily the biggest month of the year. Sometimes that can be the slowest. Yeah, January and February used to be notoriously slow. They're not anymore. So there's no cycles. So you've got to actually like really prepare for the long haul, because you don't know exactly what month is going to be fantastic and which one's not.
I just wanted to ask if you're both seeing more insolvencies, across the business landscape.
A mix. I'm saying there's some people doing really, really well. Where the lack of planning is in place, I am definitely seeing that. And again, I think it's really quite bizarre. There's a lot of different things. I'm seeing a lot of people who they're coming from a very limited, I actually was talking about this morning, very limited mindset, like there's only this much business for everyone, because they're working, again, in the business rather than on it, and they're allowing, I've done it myself. I've had some excellent referral partners go, I'm taking over the world, and then you lose me, go, well, that wasn't meant to happen, because then you've got to go out and get more. But if you continuously do that during the process, so I don't know. I don't think it's as much doom and gloom as everyone's saying, because I still see a lot of people are doing really, really well. And a few of the ones I've seen recently is because they allowed their funnel or their pipeline to actually just sort of fall away because they're concentrating in the business. So, yeah, I don't know.
What do you think, Phil?
I haven't noticed anything different per se. There is a lot more apprehension, I suppose, and that's all around the cost of living and will I invest, or what will I do, or how will that go, or I'll hold on to a bit of cash because you never know what's around the corner. So there is a bit of that. I think there is a segment where it's really difficult, especially in hospitality, when people are making a choice to maybe spend less in that market. So all of a sudden you have to revamp and have a look at your processes and your systems and all the stuff that you've got going, and review everything, because even though it might be a bit less, you might be able to review things and actually still make the same out of what you're getting in by review. So in that, I see that as a great opportunity for business owners in that area to actually have a bit of a review of actually how they operate and all that sort of stuff. And you might be able to find a lot of savings and go from there. So number one, do a bit of a spending audit on what you're doing. Check with your suppliers, see if you can get a new deal from them, things like that. There's no real rocket science in it, but it's taking the time to actually go through and do it, or finding the time, or making the time. You're probably never going to find the time. You've got to make the time. So,
well, I see it regularly with business owners. It's like, obviously you've got your insurances. Yeah, when was the last time you reviewed them? Oh, no. I get it, because it's another time. Yeah, you should find time in the day. Yeah. But if you've got like a lot of insurances that are going out on a daily basis, what can you do to actually maybe put them all into one policy? Speak to your broker.
And I might be jumping around here a bit, but
on
the review thing, and this is probably something that might be a bit of a personal thing that I need to know a bit more about, but is staff and reviewing staff, and people haven't got a consistent, like we go into one of these boring, predictable systems, and part of that is reviewing your staff against your values or against goals and against that. How do you start to implement one of them, or what's the best way to go about that, Jessy?
That's a really good question. And I think that it depends on your business and your business goals. So ideally, a really good performance appraisal system links people to the business goals. So, and they know what's expected of them. So it's no good coming to them and saying you haven't been performing in your role, but there's no clarity. So it's a big system, because they need to know what they're supposed to be doing, and you'll be amazed how many businesses had to, it's just today do this, tomorrow do that, and then when it comes time for their review, you haven't really been performing. So it's like, what is their role? Like, give them some clarity, and then what does good look like? What do you want from them, and what does good performance look like? The other thing is, I guess, it's understanding what are market rates that you should be paying people, and then what are the award rates? Because if you're paying under the award goes up. This year it's going up by 3.5%, and every July it goes up, but making sure that there's no risk there. So a lot of businesses just stick people on a salary and then just set and forget. But as the award increases, you need to make sure that you're actually paying them at least the minimum, but the minimum's never the market. So it depends on the industry that you're in and, what you've got budget for. But if you want the best people around, you need to pay for it as well. So having a system, absolutely, but just downloading a template off the internet that is not fit for purpose, I don't think you're pulling the right levers. But definitely having those check-ins to make sure that people are doing what they should be doing is fantastic. I also think like once a year is not enough for feedback. I think
it should be at least every quarter.
Yeah, because if there does need to be some adjustments, it's you don't want to do
the habit's totally ingrained, and you're actually like basically reinventing the wheel. Whereas if you had that sort of regular check-in, okay, let's try and work on this, and then you can keep on top of it before it becomes actually a big problem.
It's also quite scary to sit down once a year and you think, oh gosh, like they're going to go through a hit list of everything I've done wrong over the last year. And I don't think that that's the purpose of it when you're doing a performance review. It's like, what are they doing well? What do you want to repeat and keep going? What are some goals for them to work on? And you want them to feel good about the work that they're doing. I think if there's any performance issues, that needs to get addressed outside of a performance review. You don't save it up for a performance review because, I'll be honest, most performance reviews are pretty shit and managers hate doing them. And employees hate...
It depends who you've got in front of you, though.
But most people don't like it. If it's like, it's time for your annual review, the leaders are like tearing their hair out because it's a big, 5-page document and they've got to go through all of these KPIs and work out if this person's performing or not. And then the person doesn't like it because they feel like they're being criticised. And I just think that whole model is the wrong way to do it. I think that it should be something that is motivating because you want to be getting the best out of, like, your people are one of your biggest costs, right?
Well, also your biggest asset if handled correctly.
Correct. And so you want to get value out of them. You want them to be performing. So I think it's so important to give them feedback. But the traditional performance appraisal,
most of that stuff's no longer relevant.
Well, you'd be amazed.
I really wouldn't. That's why I work for myself.
So many businesses do that. They'll download a form that they find on the internet and do it that way. And I have to do performance appraisal, so I'll do it once a year and then talk about everything that's wrong. And they're like, why are my staff not happy?
Yeah. People doing things right.
Yeah.
Because people always perform. Very few people do not perform better when they're being acknowledged for things they're doing well. Because if you start off with this, like, I really like the way you do this, and can you please keep doing that, and even utilising it. So how did you get to that point so you can get the other people to do it? We're all going to do stuff wrong, but that's all you're concentrating, and that's all you're going to get back. And
if you're only doing them once a year, well, recency bias plays a big part of it too, doesn't it? So you might have had a good month or a bad month just before.
It depends on your mood when you go in.
They forget about all the good things you've done for the 10 months prior. So, but I think just getting back to the planning and the review. So I think what you're sort of saying there is, if you plan your staff, what your setup needs to be, get your roles and responsibilities in place. That then makes it a lot easier to do your reviews because you're measuring people against not only the values but their actual role and how that's all going.
Yeah, and also you can also work out is what you have down on paper, is that what they're actually doing? Because sometimes it's not. And so, that's a good chance to understand oh, like you're doing something completely different from this. Like you've kind of morphed into this sales and marketing person, and we hired you as something else completely. We need to look at this and maybe work out some, I don't know, commission for you, or so, like make them feel like they've been seen for what they're doing as well.
Yeah. And a lot of people get bogged down in writing out a whole list of tasks that people are to do, rather than just saying, this is what your role, this is what your responsibility is. And then all those tasks just come naturally under that. You don't have to actually get down to the minutiae and
Yeah, I think some people like to have that clarity of what does my day look like, and particularly when you're hiring people, it's good to have a bit of a guide about what your expectations are of this person. Otherwise, it just morphs into. I think the problem is when these people leave, right? If the roles just morphed around their strengths, and then they leave, you're going to be trying to hire a unicorn to replace them. So it's like, what do you need done? What does that role look like? Because they might be brilliant at something, but actually what is their role? Because that's what you're going to need to go out to market and hire when they move on, and people won't stay forever. That's,
My experience is that business owners hate hiring. They don't know how to do it. They don't like doing it. And it's a stressful, time-consuming,
100%.
and what generally happens is everything they want goes out the window because
they're desperate.
They just say, oh, well, you've got the job because I hate this process. And then they don't do any review of them in the first 3 months. They're stuck with them simply and the main thing is, hopefully they'll get better, because if I have to get rid of them, I have to go through that whole hiring thing again. That's from the small business owners around. That there's a lot of them like that. And,
I say recruitment's kind of like dating, isn't it?
Yes,
and
very similar.
And don't jump straight in with the first one that you meet. Because I think sometimes you're so desperate for the support and you really need someone to help you, and you need someone straight away. But if you hire the first person that's available, you've kind of got those rose-coloured glasses on and you don't see any of the red flags, which are all there waving at you. You might get a really bad reference check, but you're like, it's okay, that
we'll teach them.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe it was just a bad experience for that person. And sure enough, in 3 months or 6 months or a year, the same thing happens at your workplace and you're like, I had all the warning signs. Why didn't I listen? It's because you just wanted it to work out so much. And so,
definitely then start relationships.
Yeah, so exactly. And so we just, we have a saying at HR Gurus, and that's, hire slowly, fire quickly. And that is, if you,
scary.
Yeah, but you want to make that decision of you protect your culture, protect your organisation by making sure you're getting the right people in. And then if you're seeing someone that's not right and don't hang on to them just because I need someone. If they're wrong, they're doing damage, whether
100%.
It's with your customers or clients or with the team, they are not right for your culture. You need to move them on. But people hang on to them because they're like, well, I need someone. Like, I'm going on leave, so I'll do it when I get back. What is happening in the meantime to your business?
Yep.
I think that's something else that I've seen that's worked okay. It's a bit... people sometimes a bit taken back by it, but if you really got someone at the pointy end of hiring, get them on a Zoom with your team, because they're the ones they've got to work with all the time.
Love it.
And if your team come back and they've got reservations or apprehensions or they've picked up on something, let them ask a few questions, have a conversation with them, and they can come back and go, oh, yeah, well, I can deal with him or her, or they sound really good, or whatever their feedback will be. I think that's a
great tip. And also it just shows you for some reason that this person's not a culture fit. If the team's like, there's something, I mean, if they can name it, we do have to be careful about like discrimination reasons. And if it's, I don't like them because they're from a particular background, no, that's not okay. But if there's a values misalignment, like just something threw me off about how they treat people, and or I didn't like the way that they answered this question. It kind of didn't align. What they're trying to tell you is it doesn't align with our culture. So that's really important too, because if you bring in people that don't work with the culture, then that's going to be a problem too.
So when should we borrow money to keep a staff member or to add a staff member?
Well, I said I think, if you've got someone that is good and you do really want to reward them for the work they're doing and you don't have the cash flow at that time, that would obviously be one.
Have you ever seen that circumstance?
Yes. Yeah, it's not a regular one, but it's definitely in there. Because sometimes you've got someone who's really, really good and you're about to lose them, and it literally, some people are, as you said, most are 3 or 5, but there are some, because they've actually been offered and poached by someone else and who are offering them a bigger salary, and you just don't have the cash flow. Because as we know, like most times when you put a staff member on, the work comes with it. Where I think a lot of us are scared as smaller business owners to put people on, we think, oh, what happens if I haven't got enough work? I know from everything I've seen over the last, especially 10 years, everyone, when they've put on that extra person, the work just seems to flow. Like, I don't know what actually happens, but you always end up bringing in more business.
It's like when you...
It's having capacity, and there's obviously, something about if you don't have the team to help you deliver on those things, you don't have the capacity. So it's going to affect how you're selling and how you're approaching your business, because you don't have the capacity. But it's like as soon as you've got the capacity, then you can grow, and it comes out in everything that you do. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find our details in the podcast description. And if you found this information useful, you can subscribe to VSBN. We'll be diving deeper into these topics in future episodes.